We just got to tell the truth. Now, here's what I want to tell the truth about the Manti Te'o Netflix documentary because it was simply amazing. It was an amazing documentary. I absolutely loved it because, it was one thing that I lived through as a young adult, but going back and watching it through my 2022 eyes, but also watching it through my 30-year-old eyes, it was amazing. So let me start this off by saying Manti Te'o is owed an apology. He's owed an apology from people like me who had opinions and may have put out some crazy tweets. I don't know. I don't remember. He's owed an apology for those in the media who took this story and tried to accuse this guy of being something that he isn't. He's owed an apology for people who question his manhood. He's owed an apology from any and everybody who did not take the time to understand what happened in this situation and why this young man went from on top of the world to just another guy. Now, don't get me wrong. He has his own level of accountability that he has to take for his actions and how this spiral, how this sequence of events happened. Don't get me wrong, but we need to start off by giving Manti an apology. So from me to you, Manti, I'm sorry, and I'm happy that you told your story, and I'm happy that your story was told with she whose name we shall not say on the other side of it, so that we could see you for who you are and see her for the monster that she is. So let's just start with it, man. Manti Te'o got catfished, and he got catfished, and it became the national story. And then he became a fraud. Okay, and then he didn't live up to expectations in the NFL. But if you actually watch the doc, it kind of makes sense. So you take a guy who number one ranked linebacker coming out of high school, you know, from Hawaii. The obvious transition is for him to go play linebacker at USC and go kill it in the NFL. Right, that's what happens. Uh, uh, Polynesian linebacker, USC. That's what happens. He's like many Samoans, he is Church of Latter Day Saints, Mormons. For those of you who don't know what Church of Latter Day Saints is, he came from that. And what the documentary shows us was at an early age, it was football or bust. You know, mom and dad aren't making much money, and your way out of here is football. So he dedicated his life to being a great football player. He worked with his dad tirelessly to become a great football player. And that's exactly what he became. But also, along with becoming a great football player, he was a devout Mormon, you know, very serious about his religion, even down to when he picked a school. He wanted to go to SC his entire life. And he goes, Lord, give me a sign. And then someone came to him and said, hey, you go to USC, just another Samoan linebacker. But if you go to Notre Dame, you're Manti Te'o. And people will know your name forever, paraphrasing here. And I tell you, the man who gave him that advice was absolutely right. But I'd also tell you that had he gone to USC, his life would be very different. This charade that went on wouldn't have lasted as long because they would have been in the same city. He also may not have gotten all of the attention that he got because USC was at their peak and they were about to crater out because of what was going on with Pete. But also because he just would have been another great linebacker from Hawaii at USC and not a Samoan linebacker, Mormon from Hawaii at Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, covered by the Catholic Church. Okay. And they even showed some pieces where like he was going through it through his freshman year. That's normal. Even if you love the school that you went to, I love the school that I went to, Morehouse College. You can't see it up there because I got it cut off, but nonetheless, that's where I went. My freshman year, I was miserable and I wanted to leave, and I hated it there. 8 years later, as an alum, I love it. I said 8 years, 14, yeah, 8 years. I love it. Great place, happy that I went there, and I don't regret it for a second. But I can imagine that maybe there's not regrets anymore today, but there were definitely thoughts in Manti's head like, dude, what would my life be if I just would have went to SC? This thing would have never happened. I would have nipped this in the bud, and I just would have been playing football, and maybe I would have been the professional that everyone thought that I could be. And we want to beat up on him for falling in love and being in this type of odd relationship. But I look at it, um, and dude, he was a football player. He was focused. He appeared to be a little sheltered. So he probably wasn't involved with women the way that some other guys of his stature would be, or he was just doing his own thing. And I still got feelings for you over here on this distance piece, but I got these close pieces right here that I'm out of meaning. But because what's required in a distance relationship when you're super hyper focused on sports, it makes sense. Like, yo, I don't want a girlfriend in my face all the time. I don't have time to give you the time that you need. If you want me to be like a great partner for you, it's not happening because my partner is this football field. My partner is this training. My partner is my goals and my aspirations. And as somebody who was not as high functioning as Manti was at his peak, I'll tell you what, there were phases of my life that I was not sacrificing my goals for anybody. Crazy? Why would I do that? So I get it. And yes, there are red flags. But how many times have we been catfished with somebody that we knew? How many times was there an illusion of a relationship with somebody who you physically knew, could physically touch? You thought that it was going in one direction and it didn't. And you saw the red flags of like, I should get out. This ain't what I thought it was going to be. I can go now, save my dignity, save my feelings. And what do? You hang out, you stay. Because it feels good, it's comfortable. Maybe it's your lack of experience, your lack of, or that person is somebody who's like, ooh, you always wanted, or whatever the case may be. You can't turn a hoe into a housewife, right? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So before you get quick to judge Manti Te'o for being a catfish from across the country, ask yourself, have you been catfish from across the street? Because it happens. It happens, you know what I mean? But what do I know? I'm just a big baby, and I'm back. I'm back. But yeah, man. So I just think we need to have a little bit of grace and understanding, bro. It was a slow, gradual build to a relationship with, people that he knew who had internet relationships with this human being. And if we look at the way we live today, how many of y'all on Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, building relationships off the internet? He just caught the bad end of it, and it went national. And the sad thing about this is the truth comes out, He's preparing for the draft. He's going through that process. His stock drops. Um, it messes with him. He becomes a meme, a GIF. People are just booing him. He becomes one of the most hated athletes in the world. And I go, bro, why do you hate him? Nothing that he went through and he did affects you. That's why I talk about fans as being fanatics. And I don't like to call them fans anymore because, no, you need to be called for what you are. You're a fanatic. Bro, how stupid is it for you to be bothered by the fact that a dude got catfished and it became a national story? Okay, be mad at the media for taking it and running and not actually doing their homework to figure out if this person was real. It's not your fault he's a simp, or it's not your fault that he's not been exposed to devious people in his life. So the first time he got a little bit of clout, a little bit of fame, a little bit of traction, people are all on him, pulling from here and there. And he had this consistent voice before he got super big nationally, just being a cool person who was just preying on him. Why are you mad about that? Why do you care? Why do I even care that you care? We care too much about things that don't matter. We think our thoughts and feelings actually matter. And outside of our close circles, they don't. They don't. I enjoy this podcast because it's fun and it allows me to get stuff off my chest and put out my perspective, and people listen to it. Despite what you might hear on Sneak This and on Snapchat, but people listen to it. But guess what? This shit don't matter. It don't matter. We think so much that we do matters. It don't. I was telling the wife the other day, I was like, sometimes you think you matter more than you do. She gave me the, how dare you say that to me? And I go, no, I'm just being honest. I tell the truth. We as people think that we are way more significant than we truly are. And it's kind of sick. It's kind of nasty. But it's the reality that we live in. And these fans who get upset, I saw a clip of Michael Rappaport going off on KD on Charlamagne the God show that I'll never watch. And he's just saying all of this stuff, softest superstar I've ever known, this, that, and blah, 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 blah. Bro, who cares what you think? It doesn't really matter. What does it do? What does it do for KD's life? Nothing. What does it do for your life? What does it change for what happens on the game? Huh? Yeah, it doesn't. Okay, yeah. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Keep it moving, huh? But the anxiety that that young man now has, that he had, it's crazy because, we're better at understanding people's mental health issues today. We're better at putting words to feelings. And the fact that this guy goes from a free-flowing football player, that's what he's dedicated his life to, but then some creep decides to invade his life and he's not properly equipped to deal with that. And now he can't even do what he loves the way he wants to. Just imagine something that's so natural to you. Something that's so natural to you. Now you got to think about how to do it. And think about how that makes you feel. Not only are you thinking about doing something that comes natural, you're thinking about the fact that you got to think about doing something that comes natural to you. So then you just psych yourself out even more. It's like, bro, why am I even thinking about this? This is supposed to be easy. I see guard, pull, feel right there. It's like, hold on, the guard's pulling. Should I feel there or do I need a slow play? Oh, God, I missed the tackle. But that's what happens. And that's why I say adversity is very important for young people early. Why? Because you learn to deal with adversity. And hopefully you learn to deal with adversity before it's public, right? You learn to deal with adversity before you're set in your ways. You learn to deal with adversity before you build a confidence based on your ability to deal with adversity instead of building a confidence based on the lack of adversity that you've had to deal with. Because when you build that confidence based on the adversity that you've actually dealt with, bro, you don't even be worried about stuff like that. You don't be worried about as much stuff because you go, oh, I've been through this. I've done that. This doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? You have a different level of confidence. But when you build a certain confidence from a lack of adversity, when you actually deal with adversity, you tend to crumble. Spoken from experience. I've been on both sides of it. And I understand that, hey man, you're confident until you ain't. And when you ain't and you start thinking, you don't act. And when you don't act, nothing gets done. And when nothing gets done, next. And the people making decisions don't give a damn about the why, even if the why makes perfect sense. And that's unfortunate for Manti Te'o because the why makes so much sense, but we find out about it almost 10 years later when his football career is over. And it's just a sad story. And I hope everybody goes and watches it and it opens your eyes to an unfortunate happening to what seems to be a great human being. But I will say he was simping. He was simping. But with his simping, he was dealing with at that time a man, but now a lady with some pimping. Some pimping. I mean, sick, twisted, manipulative. No remorse. Yeah, it was disgusting. I don't even want to say her name. She whose name we shall not say. Talked about how she would reach out to different people, build these relationships, then dead them. Once it came to like, hey, bro, I got to see you. Dead them. But Manti was different. Manti was the one. See, what happened was she thought she was going to be able to turn Manti out. Eventually, she thought that if I just keep doing this and building this up, we could be something. Yeah, we could be. Are you crazy? Yeah. She is crazy. She's a nut. She's a loon. And I told y'all we're gonna tell the truth today. Because when I was listening to her, I was like, bro, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, I helped Manti through this. I helped Manti through that. I was there for him when he wasn't focused. I got him back focused. Yeah, he has anxiety because of you now, and he was a lesser football player in the long run because of you. And at the end, she caps it off with, I feel bad for what I did. I did some terrible things, but at the same time, I did find myself, and it gave me the strength and the confidence to become the woman that I always knew that I was. At his expense. Now, look here, let me tell you something. I don't care if a human being wants to transition. I could give a damn less. It doesn't affect me. Unless it's my wife. Then we got a whole nother conversation. But other than that, it doesn't affect me. Do what you do. Make yourself happy, okay? But when you're doing that at the expense of someone else and you see the trauma that that person has and you see what, faking a death, faking leukemia, coming back from the death, you talk about a sociopath. That shit should be illegal. And I'm not one to just call people to get locked up, but yes, I am. But lock her up. What that young lady did to that man was criminal. Absolutely criminal. It was vile. It was disgusting. And then to sit on the dock and have little to no remorse for those actions? Bro, what? You are sick. You are sick. And shout out to Manti for I'm stuttering on purpose. Now for forgiving her. Because boy, it really wait. It's sick. Hopefully she received the help that she needs, man. Because talk about call the therapist, get the shrink involved. Institutionalized. All that. Pills and potions. Yeah. Eastern and Western medicine. Traditional and non-traditional. Yeah. Holistic. Yeah. And yeah. That's what you need. She needs it all. Because she's sick. And it's sick what she did. It's nasty. And to not even have remorse after you ruin someone's life on an international level.
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.